What's up, Gear Immortals? Trey Xavier here. On today's edition of Gear God's Quality Control, we're going to be taking a look at the HX Effects from Line 6. The HX Effects is an all-in-one effects modeler unit from Line 6. The idea is that it's not just the effects from the Helix, but also from a lot of Line 6's older pedals and some of their effects from their plugins and stuff like that. What's cool about the HX Effects is that it borrows a ton of elements from the front panel interface of the Helix series. For me, one of the best parts of the Helix line is just the super colorful, really intuitive layout, and they've shrunken it down, taken out all the amp modeling, and a lot of anything that you don't need if you're using a physical amp. It's got tons of I/O in the back, not quite as much as the Helix, but just as much as you might possibly need for any amp setup, even if you've got 2 amps. So I've only got 1 amp, and that's the Rev Generator 120 here. It's got 4 channels. It is a crazy cool amp. Like most tube amps, it does not have any effects built in. It's just an amp. And while it is extremely powerful and flexible, it doesn't have like a delay, reverb, a gate, anything like that. If I were to take this out and use it, I would want to bring some effects, but I don't want a pedal board. I don't want to be tap dancing. I don't need, a complicated setup that could possibly go down pretty easily. You know how it is with pedal boards. You get 20 pedals on there, suddenly you've got no sound coming out, and you're there in the middle of the gig trying to trace the signal and figure out what's screwing it up, and everybody's sitting there waiting. The hell with that. I don't want to do anything like that. So I want the Lazy Man's all-in-one powerful effects modeler, and the HX Effects pretty much fits the bill for that. So the HX Effects has 2 modes. There's Stompbox mode, and then there's preset mode. So preset mode for me is where it's at, because you can set up a whole bunch of effects and set them on one button that will also change the channel on your amp, either through MIDI or through a relay click. One step, one sound, no muss, no fuss. Now, as it sometimes is with very powerful things, there's sometimes a steeper learning curve. And I spent a pretty good chunk of time with the HX Effects. And because it's so powerful and there's so much going on, it's a little bit harder to figure out how it works than the Helix. So if you have a Helix, or if you've used a Helix and you thought it was super intuitive, really easy to use, and you enjoyed the software that came with it that allowed you to do all that, I just don't want you to expect the HX Effects to be the same. So it sounds just as good, but there's a much steeper learning curve. Now, having said that, Line 6 has a ton of super short, to the point, and very informative videos about how to get cooking on the HX Effects right away. So I watched a bunch of those, and I got up and running on probably 90% of the features that most people would use. With just a little bit of practice, of course, you can fly around the interface of this thing using the capacitive touch on these buttons, where you can just touch the foot switches, and it'll allow you to edit any of the parameters just like that. And of course, the thing has 6 screens. Simple screens, nothing too fancy. It's not full color or anything, but having a little screen for each foot switch is incredibly handy when you're on stage, because you can look down and see exactly what each button is going to do when you step on it. Enough talk, let's see this thing in action. I've set up 2 presets, a rhythm guitar preset and a lead guitar preset. Now, I wanted to switch the channels on the Rev for each of those setups. So I set it up in such a way that the MIDI is gonna change the channel on the Rev when I step on, or in this case, push with my finger, the button for the preset. So check this out. So I've got channel 3 for the lead guitar and channel 4 for my rhythm guitar, and it switches all the effects both in the front and through the loop using the 4-cable method. Super, super handy. It was pretty easy to set up. Of course, the Rev is extremely MIDI friendly, and it was really easy to set up, partially because of how the Rev is. But it was no sweat using MIDI with the HX Effects, which is something that I often dread. But it was literally 2 minutes with reading the manual, and boom, done. All right, so check it out. Like, here's my rhythm guitar patch on channel 1 here. And then with one button, boom, lead guitar. One button and it's a world of difference. I go from a nice crunchy, tight sound to something really hot and smooth with some delay, a little bit of EQ with one button, and it sounded awesome. Really good effects. I've spent a lot of time with the Helix. I really like the effects in there, almost more than the amp models. And so for them to sort of take the essence of that and put it in its own pedal for a much lower price is a great idea. So maybe you've already got a tube amp that you really love and you're just sick of hauling around a pedal board with a bunch of pedals. Sometimes it doesn't work right. You don't want to bring your nice expensive pedals out on the road or whatever. The HX Effects is going to do everything that your pedal board can do and more. It's very pretty. It's compact, it's powerful as hell, and with a little bit of work, you can make it really scream, and I highly recommend that you check it out if you're looking for a new pedal board solution. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more reviews and original content, and I'll see you real soon.